Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark. Of course, you guys probably know me. Today, we'll be going over how to find off-market properties as our second portion. And our first portion is going to be about how we can compete more effectively against multiple offer situations, because I know we're running into a lot of those with COVID having an effect on inventory. We're all fighting to get that property. So I'll teach you some tricks, and hopefully you guys can use them in your practices. Before we get started, though, I always like to do a legal update. Not an update, more like a quiz and kind of just challenge, I guess. Let me share the screen. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that okay. Okay, let me admit everybody. Okay. Let's make sure I can get to the next screen. Okay. So can someone chat and just say that they can see this screen? It shows realist. And I'm going to admit everybody while we do that. Let me pop this out. Okay. And I need to pop the chat out too. Okay, so people can see it. So today's legal topic is probably the issue we run into the most. Now, we recently ran into this issue on a $22 million transaction where we had to get it clarified. Luckily, there was nothing wrong and we were able to continue. It was a $22 million home, very nice property in Beverly Hills or Bel Air, one of those high-end areas. So one of our agents represented the buyer. So it's about square footage differences. So here's a scenario. You're representing a client who's buying a property, and you look on the MLS, and this is a real case too that happened about a month ago. We fixed it. The square footage on the MLS says 2589. But when we looked at the actual county assessor, it said something different. So we now require agents to actually initial next to these numbers when they turn in their commission instructions to make sure we're checking. We don't want it to close. As long as we find it in the beginning in escrow, or we find it before you make an offer, we can correct it. So we see that the square footage is different, 2256 by the tax assessor and 2589 on the MLS. So we had to get it clarified. Okay. If you guys don't know how to get the tax assessor square footage, there's Realist, which I circled on the top on the menu. If you click that, you can punch in an address, or if you have the listing pulled up in the MLS, you can click that little icon that looks like a old Greek building. Okay, so either one of those will give you this Realist, and you should check it here. Okay. So how do we disclose that if we are representing the buyer? How do we disclose that? We have this verbiage, and it's a little bit long, but if you copy and paste it, it'll help you. So we're not qualified to necessarily determine what is wrong with the square footage. Like, okay, this didn't get a permit, or this did get a permit, and it didn't reflect in the tax assessor information. We're not allowed to do that. But we are required to tell everybody all the information we have. So Realist Tax for us is very accessible. You do a click, you can find out the tax assessor information. We have a responsibility to pull that up for our buyers. So here is the wording that we use. So MLS shows 4 bedrooms and 2,645 square feet of living area, while Realist Tax shows 3 bedrooms and 2,450 square feet of living area. And then the rest of it is basically saying that we have no idea what is actually accurate, and don't make us responsible. So as agents and brokers, we're not licensed and not qualified to determine square footage or determine the accuracy of any numerical statements. Any numerical statements from these sources should not be relied on, meaning your buyer should not depend on them to make any kind of buying decision. If these are important to buyer is highly advised to consult a professional such as an appraiser, contractor, architect, or government entities regarding the permits and numerical statements regarding the property. So this wording in the places that it needs to go should be in the forms below. IRN realty disclosure, whether you're representing the buyer or the seller. If you find this out, you need to put it in there. Agent visual inspection, whichever agent you are, you put it in yours. There is also a form SFLS because CAR recognized that this is actually a problem that occurs quite often. So we have a form for that as well, and that can be filled out as a buyer or the seller, just letting the buyer know. If you are a seller and you realize this before you counter back and forth, I would put it on the counteroffer, I'd put on the SPQ, the TDS, and then definitely on the MLS as well. So all these things need to be disclosed. So our policy is also that we need the client to sign the realist tax as well. But some agents didn't understand why. Why are we signing this form? Well, this is why, and we made the requirements a little bit more strict. So let's say you close a transaction and the square footage was found to be incorrect. Who is liable? So whose fault is it? Is it the listing agent? Is it the seller? Is it the buyer's agent? If they listed it in the MLS, something called Civil Code Section 1088 applies, which will state, I have to move all these windows out. I need a bigger computer monitor. Okay, if an agent or appraiser places a listing or other information in the multiple listing service, that agent or appraiser must be responsible for the truth of all representations and statements made by the agent or the appraiser of which that agent or appraiser had knowledge of or reasonably should have had knowledge to anyone injured by their falseness or inaccuracy. Okay. That means whatever you put in the MLS, you need to make sure it's completely accurate. You are, as an agent, responsible for that. But that doesn't mean that the listing agent is the only one responsible. Okay. So both the buyer's agent and the seller's agent have to check the square footage. And the reason is the buyer, even though the listing agent has the duty to say what's correct in the MLS, the buyer's agent actually has the duty to protect their client as a buyer. Now, part of that is doing the due diligence of checking square footage, and it can be argued. Basically, part of our job is to go in and check the square footage on the tax assessor, okay, as a buyer's agent. So that's part of our job as protecting the buyer. Okay. If you have questions, make sure you chat them to me. Okay, this is really important. A lot of people say, oh, well, the seller told me the square footage, or, you know, I put a disclosure in the square footage that says buyer to verify everything. None of that will protect you. You will still get sued. If one party in the transaction, even though you didn't do anything wrong, if anybody gets sued in a transaction, you will get brought in with a countersuit, basically 100% of the time. I've never seen it where we haven't. Luckily, we don't have that many cases. It's like less than 1 out of 1,000. But there are always countersuits that are filed, and then everybody in the transaction is basically brought in, even escrow sometimes. And so be very careful. Even if you didn't do anything wrong and you can prove it, it costs about, around $30,000 in legal fees to prove it. And to get those back, you need to sue somebody else, and you're basically never going to get those back practically. Okay. So do's and don'ts. I've seen all of these done. So I want to share all of our knowledge with you. Number one, don't use a previous listing agent's square footage. So don't go and look at an old, we would be responsible if they made a mistake in the past. The only place we can take a square footage from is from a reliable source, such as the tax assessor or a building plan, maybe by a builder. But the tax assessor is a good place to start for most properties. Don't use the square footage without written proof. So even if the seller tells you, you know, I got it measured, you know, I'm sure, I'm a contractor, it's 1,900 square feet. We can't go by their word. We need to see something in writing. An appraisal drawing is fine, because then we can say, hey, blame the appraiser if something goes wrong. But if there's no written proof, you are the written proof and you will be blamed. But hopefully we don't make those mistakes. So do check realist before making an offer. So this is an important one, especially in this situation. I know we're all rushing and we're like making a lot of offers that maybe we're not going to get, but don't take any shortcuts. Make sure you check the realist tax before you make an offer. The reason is, let's say you're offering on a house that's 3,000 square feet. You go into escrow and then you find out during our process that, oh, actually it's 2,500 square feet and it's because some part is not permitted. The buyer backs out. Even though you didn't get sued, that buyer will be upset. Hey, how come you didn't check it before we made an offer? We paid a price based on 3,000 square feet when we really could have paid a price based on 2,500 square feet. They'll get upset and they may not use you. So you may have lost the deal. And we don't want you to do that. If you have any questions regarding the MLS data, make sure you contact the listing agent and find out why. So there are times where the listing agent will make a mistake, misenter. We've seen it where two numbers got switched and then a listing agent will say, oh, shoot, that I made a mistake. It got switched. Let me update it. Very easy to fix, but also a mistake that we've seen. Not our agent, another agent from another company. So if you do find any discrepancies, we always do disclose all sources of square footage, such as realist tax, floor plans, any physical differences. So if we go into a property, and this is very common for properties that were used for Airbnb or are being used for Airbnb, where they divide up large bedrooms into multiple bedrooms. If, let's say, we go in the house that says 5 bedrooms, we see 5 bedrooms physically, but on the record it's only 3, then we want to make sure we note that too. Any language on the, so this is something, hi Brian. So Brian asked, MLS, if you put in language that buyer is to verify everything, that will not protect you. That will not protect you against the listing agent or the buyer's agent. It will not. So you need to state all square footages clearly and where they're from, and that we're not qualified to measure. So for new homes, the square footage may not be accurate. That's fine. What I would do in that case is I would include a disclosure that the actual constructed square footage and the square footage on the plan may not match, and that buyer is advised to seek a professional appraiser to measure the house. Okay. So we'll get moving because we do have a lot to cover. Okay, so this is one of the most common issues that we have, and I just want to make sure that you guys are updated. Okay, so now let's talk about offers. So I think a lot of agents, especially new agents, they've never represented a seller before. So I think the best thing to do is we need to put ourselves in the seller's shoes and think, okay, if I were selling my home or if I were selling the home of my client, what would I want as a seller? So in the chat, type in, what are some things that are important to a seller when they're deciding on whether to have an offer or not, which offer to take or not? I think price is probably the easiest one. What else? What is the seller looking for? Do they want their money in many months? Okay, So Curtis is saying price, days to close escrow, contingency removal. Those are all good. They want cash. Okay. I like cash. Anything else? Terms, money. Yeah, I mean, it's all, that's good. Okay. So these are the most common, right? Good, highest price, shortest amount of time, most reliable transaction. So that's where the cash comes in. People like cash because they don't have to go through an appraisal. They don't have to go through loan approval. The transaction is reliable. And they want, sometimes sellers will choose to sell to a buyer they like. Okay. And sometimes there's some lease back, storage, other terms that'll make the seller's life easier. Okay. So as we go through these kind of tips, I think we should keep these in mind. I suggest we keep these in mind and look through that as kind of a guide. So before writing your offer, so we're talking about buyers when we're competing against multiple offers. This is something that we should all know and do, which is you always call the listing agent before we write an offer. It's more work, and yes, we may be writing like 6 offers for the same client in 1 week, but you have to call each listing agent because you have to know what the situation is with the offers. Number one. Number two, I reversed it, but you also need to establish some type of rapport with that listing agent. A lot of times there will be very, very similar offers at the top, meaning there's 2 offers that are very, very close. And the listing agent has a lot of power to say, hey, I like Judy because she's followed up with me every day. But Frank just sent the offer without calling me, even though he is the highest offer. I don't know anything about his client. Judy has told me where the clients work, what kind of income, why they're buying the house, their whole situation. And I think Judy is going to have a better chance to close. So that's something that we need to really do with every offer, is kind of sell the client. Our job is to really negotiate and sell and really convince the listing agent that we're the right and most reliable offer. The other thing is we need to make sure that we're coming in as the most attractive offer. So some agents will come in and ask me, well, they've told me that they have over asking offers, but I want to submit under asking. And I'll know the listing agent, and I know that listing agent wouldn't lie about having an over asking offer. So I'm saying, why would the client ever choose you if they have a better offer with better terms? So it's important to call in, find out, what the offer situation is like, how many offers they have, and if they are representing any buyers themselves. So the listing agent is representing the buyer too, the chances of you succeeding are also less. So you're going to have to even go way above. An ethical listing agent will still choose the best offer, meaning if their offer is 20% down and it's a little bit lower and there's a cash offer that comes in higher, they'll try their best to get that loan offer to be the right price, but in the end, that loan offer may not be the best and most qualified offer. So a good listing agent will still sell to the best offer. They're supposed to. Another good question to ask them is, what would a perfect offer look like to the seller? Meaning, we have a lot of people kind of in a weird transition right now. They're changing jobs, or they're moving because of COVID, or they have moved because of COVID, and they've got like unique situations where they say, okay, well, I've got all this stuff and I kind of need to store it here for 2 months while I move to Houston, or while I'm moving into California, whatever it is. Sometimes that will make a difference in the offer. So we've had situations where, okay, giving the right to have like 1 room or the garage as storage will actually win the deal for our buyer's agent. So ask that question to the listing agent. Well, what would a perfect offer look like? They might need a rent back because they're buying something else, their house is under construction. Those are both important. The last thing is also very important, which is the deadline and counter offer process. So every listing agent handles things differently. Now, some will take offers as they come in and accept something right away. Some agents will say, okay, you can submit an offer now, but we're not going to review it for another 2 weeks because we know that we're going to get multiple offers and we want to make sure we view every single one. So know that, and also know that if you have a good relationship with the listing agent and they are willing to give you some information, the best time of the to submit your offer is right before the deadline. What you do is the day before or that morning when you're supposed to submit that offer, you call into that agent, you say, hey, we're about to submit. I just wanted to do one last double check with you on how the offers look. You know, is this price looking good? You know, did you get any cash offers since the last time we spoke? Those kind of things will give you a kind of idea. So I was a listing agent one time, and a very smart buyer's agent was submitting on a property I had multiple offers on. So the first day he submitted an offer and he realized, okay, we're not responding to him. So the next day he submitted a little bit higher, like a lot higher actually. And that may be something that you want to do. And then he was the one to get the deal because he beat out the other offers because he submitted the higher offer. So he increased his offer and he won. So that's another strategy you can take. Another thing is you have to create a CMA before writing the offer. It isn't, number one, we want to educate the buyer on the market. Number two, we want to explain to the buyer, because a lot of things are selling higher than CMA prices would suggest. Okay, so it means the market is going up or the market is very hot. And that's both true, but we still need to do our job and do a CMA each time we submit an offer. Sometimes we don't know, and maybe the list price is too low, and we know that because the CMA says it's worth $1 million, listed at 950, we know it's going to go way up. So it gives us a lot of indication. So also, I know that we do have some agents here that have not done a CMA. So I wanted to see if you guys are comfortable doing CMAs. I will run a poll here. While we continue. So always do a CMA when you're making an offer. Good. Most of our people are comfortable doing a CMA. But for those who are not, we want to get you there. So maybe we'll host some type of class or record a video on how to do a CMA. It's going to take practice to get comfortable with it because you're going to need to take multiple tries and multiple properties to do a CMA, but you will get comfortable with practice. Okay. I'm going to end this because we do have a lot to cover. Okay. So creating an attractive offer. So this slide should be up. So sellers want the highest price in the shortest amount of time with a reliable buyer agent that they like. Of course, they want a cash offer, okay, if they can, because you don't have to do a loan, you don't have to do appraisal, and you can close quicker. So we've done closings in as fast as 5 days. So literally from open escrow to close escrow, it's 5 days. And that means everyone has to move fast. You can never do that with a loan, but our loan department is pretty fast. I would say right now you could probably get away with 25 days. We can get an approval for you guys in a couple days. So copy this number down, the 626-726-3500. That number actually goes to me, but I'll assign a loan officer depending on who you like. And we're getting better and better, so we can go faster and faster. So if you guys can close in 25 days and other offers are all at 30 days, it'll give you a little bit of an advantage. Now, if there's a cash offer, then it's going to be hard, but at least you have that option. The next thing is, that's the closing date. The next thing is shorter contingency periods. So obviously the seller wants to have your deposit, your buyer's deposit, as non-refundable as soon as possible. That means you're removing your contingencies faster. Now you need to think and talk and use your experience, or ask us what we think in terms of contingencies. Inspection and reports, about 7 days is probably the quickest you can do, because your inspection might take a couple days to come out. You need to get all the reports, and that's if the listing agent is ready. If the listing agent doesn't have the HOA documents and doesn't have the all the disclosures filled out, he's going to need time. And so 7 days is about the quickest if the agent is ready. You can do it in 3, or you can do it in 1. Those are all fine. But you still need to do your inspection. Appraisal contingency depends on the lender. Loan contingency, same thing. Our loan department can do them pretty quick, faster than the contract. So we can do them in like maybe 10 and 14 days. But those are important too. So if you can shorten those, it'll make the seller feel good. The only thing is, you don't want to do it so short that you're going to be violating the contract and the seller has an excuse to kick you out. Because right now we have a lot of sellers that are getting higher offers after they've accepted, and they're looking for an excuse to kick you out. So we just kicked out a seller because they were 1 day late on closing. So they funded on the closing date and they weren't able to close. We kicked them out. And unfortunately, it was in the best interest of the seller to do that. So we just have to. And we were representing the seller, so we had to kick them out. Another thing is, they want the most reliable transaction. So they're going to judge you as an agent, meaning all your interactions with that listing agent, they're going to judge you by. Meaning if you talk to them and you're professional and you present your information correctly, you write your offer without any mistakes, fewest typos as possible, and a contract that is complete. No misunderstandings like, oh, we're missing a stove or we're missing termite, something that you have to correct later. Follow our offer example or ask us to review the offers. So we review offers 7 days a week. Me, Cindy, David all do it. You send it to us, we'll tell you what's wrong. But don't send it to us last minute. So if the offer is due at 12, don't send it to us at 11:30. You may not make it in time. Okay, and that's not our fault. Lastly, I see some agents, they get desperate and the listing agent says, I want you to remove all contingencies with your offer. And these a lot of times are agents that are not that experienced. And the reason is, even if you remove all your contingencies, the minute the listing agent gives you a different report, meaning, okay, well, you're going to remove all your contingencies, but now I'm going to give you a preliminary title report. The preliminary title report, if you didn't provide it when you told everybody to remove their contingencies, will reopen the contingencies, okay? And the buyer can say, well, I don't approve of this item on the prelim, and they can cancel and get their deposit. Just don't mess with that. You need to do an inspection, because if you open escrow, you have no contingencies, and later on you find out there's mold in the property or the property is basically not livable, then you have an issue and you have a dispute. Okay, so don't remove all contingencies with your offer. So I know a lot of this is kind of basic, but we will go into more stronger strategies in a second. So sending the offer, number one, always demonstrate you're the most reliable offer. These are the things to send. Introduction letter or video. Okay, we'll talk about it then in the next slide. That's one I think that if you guys want an edge, if you guys are losing properties, you need to be sending out introduction letters or videos to stand out from the other offer because everyone else is doing it. So you're like, I would say 50% of the offers out there will have an introduction letter or a video. If you're not doing it, you're already on the bottom 50. So you need to be careful, of course, but you should write something, or my suggestion is to start to do video. Also, you want to get a confirmation that they received your offer by text or email, because we have a lot of people who are saying, oh, I never received that person's offer. Well, the buyer's agent should really be saying, hey, I sent over an offer. Can you confirm that you received it? Otherwise, it may not get presented. It went to their spam or something. This is a really good thing to do also. If your buyer is getting a loan, find a lender, and our LOs will do it, our loan officers will do it, is the minute you submit the offer, have your loan officer call the listing agent. Loan officer should call the listing agent and say, hey, my name is Becky. I'm helping John and Mandy buy a property, and their loan amount is $800,000, but we've already reviewed their tax returns, their credit. They're fantastic. It's going to be a slam dunk. You have no problem with the loan. We're ready to go as soon as you are. And that's going to give the listing agent a lot of confidence and make your offer stand out. Because I would say less than 20% of the agents will do that, maybe less than 10. So these are all ways that you guys can stand out. And if you do all of them, you're going to stand out a lot. Of course, price is always important, but you may get an extra counter because of these. As far as the introduction letter or video, so a lot of people say, oh, my client doesn't speak English. That's fine. You can get it translated if the seller speaks English or otherwise. But this is a kind of structure that I suggest, and you can always change this. Number one, you have to show that you love the home and why you love the home. So usually my letters start out with, you know, John and Mandy have been looking for a home for 12 months, and we haven't seen anything quite like your home. Your home has a beautiful open floor plan, and the kitchen and great room are connected. We can picture our kids playing and us, you know, getting dinner ready, and the whole family. We love the idea of the whole family being together. So you need to talk about why you love the home, because more likely than not, the sellers will appreciate that. Second, that the buyers are committed to a smooth transaction. This will sell your client. No seller will want to go through a transaction where the buyer is trying to request a repair for every single thing. You know, this light fixture is missing a light bulb. We want you to repair that. It doesn't, it's a painful transaction. So if you can tell them that, hey, we're going to make the process smooth. We're not going to request any repairs unless it's, you know, a major system that's an issue. That will help alleviate a lot of their concerns. And then also, I always like to include something about how they're financially capable. Now, okay, this person is a CPA in this example, or this person owns their own business and they haven't been affected by COVID. Those kind of things will help as well. Now, this is something that I just started doing for kind of, I don't really do sales, but we kind of have a team that does them for a lot of my past clients and a lot of my referrals. This has been super, super effective. And I would say less than 5% of agents will do this, which is you make the client film a video about themselves. Instead of writing a letter, you film a video. And it's all the same things, except now it's in a video form. And now the seller and the buyer can basically, the seller will be able to see the buyer and the family or whatever, and be able to put a face to that offer. Oh, I can see this family moving into the house. It's super uncomfortable for the client if they're not used to being on camera or they don't like it, but it works. It's like just the letter itself has got me, like the agent will say, hey, you were like one of the lowest offers that came in, but because you wrote this letter, the seller decided to give you a chance and bump up the counter. Bump it up on a counter. We originally weren't going to issue a counter offer. So it's important that you get this. And the video, we just won a deal. I think there were 6 total offers, and we sent the video and we got it. So really, really helpful. There's a sample of the letter. If you need a word-by-word sample, we have it on Iron Central in our example offer folder. So make sure you check that out. If you need that exact same, you can copy it. I have no problem. That's what it's there for. Okay. So this is one trick that has gotten me a lot of buyers offers accepted when they basically didn't have a chance otherwise. So if you're working with a lot of young buyers and maybe their parents have some money and their parents support the transaction, what I do if we are in a very competitive market is we will write the offer as cash. Here's an example. They're buying $1 million house. They're going to be putting $200,000 down, but they both are professionals. So they have very stable jobs, and basically their loan is like a slam dunk. And the loan officer says, you know, this is going to be no problem. They're W-2, very highly paid. Slam dunk, no problem. I'll talk to them and say, hey, we've lost 3 or 4 houses. I do know that you guys come from a well-off family, or you guys have some savings that you guys can apply toward the house. If you needed to. And so would you be willing to use that money as a backup offer, meaning backup funds? So basically we'll write the offer as cash, $1 million cash. We're going to become a cash offer, but we're going to put in a stipulation I usually put it in paragraph 6, and I'll put buyer will attempt to obtain a loan. If unable to obtain a loan, buyer will close with cash. So now we're a cash offer, but we have the right to go back and do the loan. And more than likely, as long as we have enough time, 30 days, we can get the loan done. And then basically they don't touch a penny of that cash. Now they need to be willing to, if they don't get the loan, which is very highly unlikely, that they can use that cash to close. So you have to be really careful and very, very confident in that ability. So it's a little bit of, I would say, an advanced strategy. If you're a beginning agent, maybe don't do this, or you need to have it supervised. Each time you want to do this, have us review the contract, because we've seen it done incorrectly that puts the clients at risk, and we have to correct things. Okay, we don't want your client to lose their deposit because they couldn't fulfill their end of the buying transaction. Okay. Just a couple of notes. If you do it this way, you'll have no appraisal, it's a cash offer, so there's no appraisal contingency, no loan contingency. If they're buying at $1 million, it appraises at $950, they won't be able to back out because of the appraisal. If for some reason the loan gets denied, maybe, oh, we didn't know you were being sued for $1 million, or you have a judgment against you for $1 million and you owe that, so your cash is really no good. We can't back out because of no loan contingency. So you really have to be sure. And that involves the lender checking their credit and pulling all those things before. Okay. I'm going to pause here and check the chat. Okay, we have a couple questions. Number one, how do we compete if the listing agent represents both sides? I think it's difficult. You just need to write your very best offer, confirm that they receive the offer, and just do your best. And then I would monitor it when it closes. Okay, and look at the price and just make sure, ask them to, on your initial emails for the offer, I would also ask them to, number one, sign the date and time where they presented it. Number two, there's an area where it says, if you're not going to take the offer or you're not going to counter offer, please sign the rejection letter. Rejection. There's a rejection on last page of the purchase agreement, or the second to last page. The seller is supposed to sign there if they reject the offer. So that way you can make sure that the listing agent presented the offer. I think that's the fear that most people have. Now, if the listing agent does not respond at all, that's the second question we have. my advice is either you, if you feel comfortable contacting the broker, you can contact the broker and just say, I get these calls sometimes where, hey, this agent's not responding to me. They're not confirming they received the offer. And then I'll call the agent. That agent will say, okay, I'll send out a confirmation of receipt or whatever it is. And I'll get the seller to sign that they received the offer and they reviewed it and they rejected it. So if they don't respond, talk to the broker, but you need to do this quickly because if you wait 2 days, 3 days, the offer may be accepted and you may not have a chance. Maybe they just never got it and they're not picking up their phone, they're whatever. Okay. So hopefully, did that make sense? The turning a loan buyer into a cash buyer? Okay. If you have questions, just let me know. But you know, this is a huge advantage if you use it. Okay. So now we're going to talk about off-market properties. So if we're having problems kind of competing on the market, there are also ways to compete off the market, meaning we find a property that's off the market. Maybe the owners don't want other people to know that they're selling, and they're okay with a private sale. And it happens all the time. We see them all the time. You guys don't see them because you're looking at the MLS, but we see them when we see closings that there are properties that are being closed off market. I personally bought a couple properties off market using these methods and other methods too. So just it does work. The first thing that we can do is we can look at expired or canceled listings, meaning maybe they listed like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but they didn't get the offer they wanted, and then they took it off the market. And then because they didn't want anybody going through the home, they haven't relisted the property. What I would do if your buyer is having a hard time finding that property, go in and look for all the expired and canceled listings for like, I don't know, 4 years even, because those prices are now higher and maybe they're happy with the price. Couple notes. One, don't try to go after the hold or withdrawn. Those are technically actively listed, meaning there is an active listing agreement. So those are technically off limits. We're not supposed to approach listings that are under contract. Number two, if you look for expired or canceled, sometimes those properties were expired or canceled because the agent forgot to update it and they've sold since. So go into Realist, check the latest date that it sold and make sure it's not after the time that it was listed. If it was after the time it was listed, that means it sold as a result of listed. These are the ways you can contact them. You can contact them by mail, or you can call, or you can door knock. Now, the biggest note on here on the bottom is if you want to be successful at this, you cannot just call or try once and then you talk to them once. It's not going to work. You have to try multiple times. So if you're going to send mail, it's got to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters, maybe spread out by a week or a few weeks or every month. Same thing with calling or even door knocking. If you want to approach these listings, okay, they're cold to you, so you're going to have to do more work and be more aggressive than other agents. One thing a lot of people say, oh, how do I get the phone numbers? Well, this is a really good website, True People Search, and it's kind of scary how much information they have, and it's best thing about it is it's free. We'll look someone up in a second, okay, and so copy that down if you don't have it. So I'm going to go through this and then I'm going to show you a couple things on the computer. Hopefully I can squeeze them in. The other method, and this is something that I use a lot, which is when someone taught me how to do this, they called it sharpshooting. And what it means is you're choosing the properties that your client would likely buy. So for example, you are looking in a specific community. You have a buyer, they love in this community and they have to have 3 bedrooms. And then that community maybe has, I don't know, 1,000 homes that match that criteria. You pull out those 1,000 homes and you mail them a letter. Okay, so I usually do a letter because I don't have time to like call or anything like that. But I've done calling before, and I hired somebody to call, and it worked. And we were able to find an apartment building for somebody, and we bought it for under market. So it's great. It does work. So the questions are: how do you get the list? You get it from either I get it from Realist, but you can get it from your title company. It comes in like an Excel format, and then it's got all this information, but it doesn't come with phone numbers. So if you're gonna say, okay, I want to call every owner with a 3-bedroom house in Temple City that has a 5,000 to 10,000 square foot lot, it's not going to come with phone numbers, but it will come with letters, and you can do it. We'll review the letter in a second, but here are some results of times when I've done it in the past. So these are real, somewhat approximate numbers. When I did it in a letter format, and that's what we'll review, I sent out about a little under 1,200, and it cost me about $700 to send out, just the printing and the mailing postage. I received 8 seller calls, and then out of those 8 seller calls, I received 1 deal that was worth $57,000. If you count that client, after they bought that property, also sold that property. And there was no way I would have gotten both deals had I not sent this letter, because we made like 20 offers and they were all getting rejected, because he wasn't cash at that time, and I was very competitive. If you count that, it's probably over 100,000 in commissions from that one letter. So if you can spend $700 and make $100,000, I think it's a pretty good investment. Okay. You just have to actually do it and, get through the learning curve, because I think that's what most people can't get through. Second thing, the second case study, I guess you can call it, is when I sent out a postcard. I sent out about 5,000 and I got 16 calls, but one of those calls was to a seller who I double-ended the transaction because I had the buyer, I had the seller, and then I also got a new home transaction that was, over 100 grand in commissions. So total, it doesn't say here, but postcards are they're all about 50 cents a piece. So I spent about $2,500 and I made, over the course of a couple of years, made about 162. So it's a really good investment if you can do it properly. Okay. So let me switch my screen over. Has anyone ever tried this and gotten good results? I forgot to add in here. These are about the results you'll get. So if you are sending 100 letters, you're not going to get enough calls. Maybe you might get 1 if you're lucky. You need to be in the hundreds or at least 500, probably 1,000 range of letters before you start to get a reliable return in terms of calls. Okay. So make sure you know that. Okay, we are going to switch back over to the MLS, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, first let's do this. You guys all see a letter, right? This letter is basically the same letter that I usually send out. So I say, hi, I'm Mark. I'm with this company. I'm with IRN Realty. I'm writing because I'm working with a wonderful young professional looking to buy a condominium in Arcadia. They're friendly, loving, lovely family, including a mother, father, and 2 beautiful children with a son just starting high school. Oh, this letter is kind of messed up. But anyways, we just tell them about the family, what their children are likely to do, wanting to do. In this case, this is actually more accurate, the bottom part. They have two beautiful children with a son just starting high school, hopefully at San Marino High. They plan to stay in San Marino long after both their children graduate from high school. And the reason I say that is because some people are afraid, okay, you're going to tear down the house or you're not going to value the house. You're just buying it and you're going to leave it empty. No, this family is actually going to live in it. They're going to live in it, enjoy it just like you did for 20 years or whatever it is. Some people are sentimental. Then I bolded. If you are considering selling and have always wanted a chance to pick the next family that will enjoy your home for decades to come, this is the time. You will not find a family more genuine and more kind than this one. The buyers may be able to pay all cash for the home if needed. The buyers also have great credit, their own successful business, and we will be easily able to get a loan if we need. Okay, and then I just put all my information there. It's a very simple letter. Anyone can write it. Anyone can edit it. This is also in Iron Central. Okay, so very simple. Maybe you can make yours even better than mine, and you can get a better result in turnover rate. Okay. So I will show you very quickly how to pull the list in the MLS. Okay. If you need more help, we can do it. Let me know. Okay. I pull it from Realist Tax. So I click into Realist Tax and I say, okay, well, my clients love this particular neighborhood, and I'll find a neighborhood that we like. Let's say, let's just choose one. I don't want to wait too long. So usually I'll do some type of rectangle tool or what they call polygon tool. So if you look at the top left, there's this thing, and I'll say polygon usually, and I'll say I like here, I like this block. Okay, I'll make it smaller to avoid that issue. And you can edit it once you open it. So let's say I want this little block here. And then you'll click search, and then it'll come up with, it says more than 100. You're not going to be able to individually view them, so you have to export them. When you export them, you can, so here we have, oh, literally there are 101 homes in this export. So that's not enough, but if you want to get started, you would just export it. Make sure that you have the right fields checked. So if you, sorry, my screen is not big enough, but usually make sure you get the mailing address of the the property address, because sometimes people are not living there. So what we use as the mailing address is their tax billing address, okay? So get both addresses, mail to the tax billing, but make sure you talk about the property address in that letter. And then a mailing house will be able to help you do what they call a mail merge, which is each letter will have the owner's name and have the property address, and then whatever else information that you want to pull up. But that's how you pull a list up really quick. With a title company, it takes a little while because you have to meet with a title person, tell them what you want, that kind of thing. So I like to do things quickly, and so I usually use Realist. Now, if you are looking, so I also wanted to, so some people don't know how to look for expired listings. So this is another thing that we can do. I just want to show you while we're in here. If we're looking at, let's say, residential, and let's say we want to look for expired, we just check off expired and canceled. But this means 0 to 180 days, meaning 180 days ago till now. 0 means now. So I have no problem choosing something 4 years back or whatever. So I might choose like 1200 to, I don't know. I may not want the new expireds because they just came off the market. So maybe I'll do 90. I don't know if that will work. Maybe 90 to 1200. So that's 90 days ago, and then going back to 1200 days ago. I think that'll work better. And then let's say we're doing San Marino, so we don't pull up too many listings. And let's say we're looking for at least a 3+ bedroom. and obviously single family. And you'll see there's 262. And then you can literally go through, and then I would sort them by like this one on Canterbury, it expired 3 times. You just need to make sure that it hasn't sold. So you go in and you check the real list, each one, and you check the transfer date, last transfer date, which is down here. So last recording date was 2015. So once you know that it hasn't been transferred, hasn't been sold, then that's a good lead that you can go after. Okay. So I'll check the chat. I don't think anyone said anything. If you have questions, make sure you type it in and I'll try to answer them. If you're going to call these expireds, so why don't we just pull this guy up? Now, all this is public record in terms of, that's going to be a hard name to identify. So here's this owner, and he lives there, 2033. Who's the listing agent? Okay. Let's go here. So we're going to say, oops. So let's narrow it down. And we're going to do South Pasadena, California. So you can pull this, and this is, I've checked myself, and it is extremely accurate if you find the right person. So this may not be the right person, doesn't match. Maybe this one. So this is the one. So you know Han-Woo is 46, you have his birthday, you have his landline phone number, and you have all his previous addresses. See, you see the Marengo address that he has his tax. So this is all free. You get all that information. It's kind of scary how much information you have on there that you can look up, but that is the internet. Okay. So that's a tool if you want to try to contact these owners, and it does work. What do you guys think? Let me know. Let me check time. So that's how you can find the off-market owners. Let's see if I missed anything here. Okay, I showed you the letter sample. Okay. That is, let me do this. The last thing is, if you have not been keeping up with your own clients, you guys should obviously, but an easy way, if you have tons of people that you know, maybe from a different business, or you have your own big list of past clients, you know, and it's too big, you can always call them or send a text and let people know that the market is hot and that people are getting crazy prices, and that if they did ever want to sell, this would be the good time. This would be the time. And so here's a couple simple texts. We have a very motivated buyer who has made 6 over asking price offers, and I might put he hasn't won any of them. He hasn't actually purchased a home. Is there any price that you would be a seller? Even if they put a price, okay, my house is worth 1.3 and I'm willing to take 1.5, you know, keep them on your list. That's how you create a database of off-market properties in your mind. So that way you know, okay, the market after COVID, what if it goes up and it's now worth 1.5? Then you can call that seller and say, hey, it's worth 1.5. That buyer already bought something. Or if you have another buyer, you can buy it directly. But at 1.5, I think we could get you guys multiple offers and list the property. The second one is very similar. Okay, so you can look at it. Do you guys need or want the slides too? I was gonna put the video up on IRN Central, but if you guys want the slides, and I can put them up too. Just let me know in the chat, okay? Okay, so hopefully you got a couple little strategies to use throughout that. One thing I did want to talk to you about before we finish is, we're getting good news with COVID. People are saying, Biden said that we would have a mostly regular 4th of July outdoor barbecue. So it looks like over the next few months, we're going to be coming out of COVID, okay? So I feel like it would be a good time if we're an agent, if we are wanting to expand the business and you want to do that once COVID is kind of more under control, now is the time to plan, okay? In addition to planning, rates are also going up. So we're seeing a lot of people who were kind of waiting on refinancing. And there's like, oh my gosh, the rate went up a lot. They're now pulling the trigger and saying, okay, I better lock this in because, after COVID, we don't know what is going to happen to the rate. So we actually created something, and I'll show it to you right after this, that will help you track, or we will help you track your loan rate and when it is a good time to refinance. All you have to do is enter your loan information and then we'll contact you when it's a good time. And we'll check on Monday. So on Monday, if you guys enter your information, I'll have a loan officer go through and just quote you that rate and see if it's a good time. If it's not, we'll keep you in our database and check periodically when it's a good time to refinance for you so you can lower your monthly payments. Or maybe what I've been thinking about is, should I refi, cash out some of the apartments and then get ready to buy more apartments, because who knows what's going to happen with the eviction moratorium. When the eviction moratorium goes away, how many of these evictions are going to happen, and how many people are going to want to own apartment buildings after going through, 3, 4, 5 evictions. It's a huge pain. It takes months. You're not getting paid. Being a landlord may look a little bit less attractive to them, and that may mean prices. I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I think it's something to think about. So some of the questions that we can think about as we plan our business going forward is, how many transactions do you want to do? Where is the business going to come from after COVID? So for me, one thing I missed a lot is open houses, okay? But there are other things that we can always do even during COVID, which is like farming or finding a way to do expired listings, door knocking. We have agents door knocking still, even with COVID, in a safe way. And then there's a special way that you can do like a private showing open house that if you guys have questions, you can let me know about. But it needs to be done very, very carefully, okay? The next question is, who do you need to contact or reconnect in your network to start making those goals? And then what systems and people need to be in place, okay? So just some things to think about as we kind of emerge from COVID, because it takes months for any results to actually happen. So you start something tomorrow and it won't happen tomorrow because you need a lot of time to prepare a system. You won't see results till like 6 months down the line. Okay. Now I wanted to show you the short form that we prepared. All you have to do is copy this link down. So link loans, it's really easy. Link loans, just like a website link. Link loans. It's the website we have created for this form, and I will show it to you how easy it is. Hold on. So we're trying to improve our loan department because we do find that our rates are better than outside, and we're not doing enough compared to the volume in real estate that we're doing every month. So I think it's a good opportunity for everybody. And especially if your clients are in a position where they can save money refinancing, you'll be the bearer of good news if you can tell them. This is how simple it is. All you do is you click through and you say, I want a 30-year. I have a condominium. I'm using it as a second home, or maybe let's say we're going to use this as primary. And then this is my credit score. And then this is my current rate and my loan amount. And let's just say that's the property value. And then you type in a property address. Don't type that in, type in something accurate because we'll need to look it up. And then just type in a number. And then we'll be able to monitor the rate. If there's a chance that you can save money, we will send you a text or get in contact with you to try to save you money. If not, then we'll watch it for you and put you in our database. So if the rate does drop, we'll let everybody know. So it's something we're trying to do. Okay. So basically that's it for today. So thank you, everyone.